Hello, I am Mike.
And hello, I am Lily, and welcome to English Podcast Flow.
Today we're going to be talking about something that I think we all could use a little bit more of, and that is discipline.
Yeah, discipline.
You know, it's something that we all kind of strive for, and yet
It can be so hard.
it can be so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you think about it, like, what is discipline?
Right.
I think of like a drill sergeant, like someone who's, really, really strict and
Yeah, that's what a lot of people think of it, someone who's incredibly strict and rigid. But, you know, I think true discipline, it's less about being harsh on ourselves and more about just setting ourselves up for success.
So how do we redefine that then?
Right.
Like, what is discipline if it's not, the drill sergeant image?
Well, discipline is really the ability to make choices that align with your goals, even when, you don't necessarily feel like it in the moment.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that sometimes, the most rewarding path isn't always the easiest or the most pleasurable in the short term.
Yeah, and that's especially true today, I think, with all the distractions and temptations that are out there,
Oh, absolutely.
It's so easy to kind of get sidetracked,
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly bombarded with, things that offer instant gratification,
Right.
whether it's, social media or streaming services or, just the ease and availability of pretty much anything we want at any given time.
So how do we combat that then? I mean, is it just a matter of, willpower? Are we just supposed to like white knuckle our way through life?
Willpower definitely plays a role, but, relying solely on willpower is, it's kind of like setting yourself up for failure because it appears that our brains are actually wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So when we're faced with, a choice between something that feels good now, like, watching another episode of our favorite show, and something that will benefit us in the long run, like going for a run.
Yeah.
Our natural inclination is often to go for the easy, pleasurable option.
So how do we start to rewire our brains, so to speak,
Right.
to make those choices that support our long-term goals?
Well, one really effective strategy is to start small.
Okay.
It appears that a lot of people try to make these like drastic changes all at once.
Right.
And then, they get overwhelmed and they give up.
Yeah.
So instead of, aiming for a complete life overhaul, just focus on setting like small specific goals that you can build on over time.
So instead of saying, I'm going to work out every day for an hour,
Right.
maybe start with something like, I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk 3 times a week.
Exactly. Or instead of trying to, cut out sugar entirely, maybe you commit to replacing one sugary drink with water each day.
Okay.
It's those small, consistent actions that really add up to big changes over time.
I love that. It's all about, creating those small wins that kind of give you momentum and you start to feel good about the progress you're making.
Exactly.
So what are some other strategies that we can use to kind of build that discipline muscle, so to speak?
Another great tip is to create a daily plan.
Okay.
Having a plan, it provides structure and it helps you prioritize your tasks. And, you're less likely to get sidetracked or waste time on things that aren't important when you have a clear roadmap for your day.
Yeah, it's almost like that predetermined structure kind of reduces the chances of decision fatigue.
Exactly.
If you already know what you need to do and when you're less likely to get caught up in those, should I be working, should I be on Facebook, those internal debates.
Right. It just streamlines your decision-making process and it allows you to, focus your energy on actually completing the tasks that matter most. And, it doesn't have to be complicated either. It could be as simple as, jotting down the 3 most important things that you want to accomplish each day.
Yeah, I found even just a to-do list is helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to be able to check things off as you go gives you that sense of progress and accomplishment.
And if you want to take it a step further, you could try like blocking out specific times in your day for certain activities, like, work, exercise, meals, and even relaxation.
I love that you included relaxation in there.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good reminder that discipline isn't about being productive 24/7.
Yeah.
It's about, making choices that support your well-being.
Right. Exactly.
And that includes taking time to rest and recharge.
Absolutely.
So speaking of things that can kind of hinder our best efforts.
Yes.
Let's talk about distractions.
Yes.
I mean, we live in a world of constant stimulation, and it's so easy to get pulled away from what we're trying to focus on.
Absolutely.
So if you want to cultivate discipline, you really need to be proactive about minimizing those distractions.
Yeah. And, I think one of the biggest culprits for a lot of people is technology.
Yeah.
Our phones, our computers, They're designed to keep us engaged.
Right.
And it's so easy to get sucked into, the endless scroll of social media or the constant stream of notifications.
Yeah, my phone is a black hole of distractions.
Oh, I know.
But beyond our phones, what are some other common distractions that we should be mindful of?
Well, it really depends on your individual circumstances, and you know what you're trying to accomplish. But, some common culprits include
Yeah.
social media, email, television clutter, and even other people.
Oh, yeah, other people definitely.
Yeah. So, think about the things that tend to pull you off track and see if you can implement some strategies to minimize their impact.
So, for example, if social media is your weakness,
Right.
maybe you try using an app that limits your time on certain sites.
Exactly.
Or if you find yourself constantly getting sucked into the news cycle,
Right.
maybe, designate specific times to check headlines instead of constantly refreshing your feed.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of your physical environment as well.
Oh,
If
okay.
you're trying to focus on work, but your desk is covered in clutter, it's going to be much harder to concentrate. So take some time to create a dedicated workspace that's free from distractions and conducive to productivity.
Yeah, it's amazing how much our surroundings can influence our state of mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Just having a clean, organized space can really help to create a sense of calm and focus.
Absolutely.
But what about those times when we're trying to be disciplined, but, our willpower just seems to crumble?
Right.
What do we do then?
That's where the concept of habit formation comes in.
Okay.
Studies show that habits are incredibly powerful because they automate our actions, making them easier to perform over time. So, if you can turn those desired behaviors into habits, you no longer have to rely on willpower to get them done.
So instead of having to constantly remind myself to go for a run,
Right.
I can reach a point where it's just something I do automatically, like brushing my teeth.
Exactly. And the good news is that building habits is a skill that can be learned and refined. There's a lot of research on the science of habit formation, and there's some proven techniques that can help you make those positive changes stick.
I'm so glad we're talking about this because I think there's often this misconception that, some people are just habit people and others aren't.
Right.
But what you're saying is that anyone can cultivate good habits with the right approach.
Absolutely. It's not about having some kind of innate ability. It's about understanding the mechanics of habit formation
Yeah.
and then applying those principles consistently.
So where do we begin? I mean, thinking about building all these new habits can feel a little overwhelming.
The key is to start small and focus on one habit at a time.
Okay.
Trying to change too many things at once is a recipe for burnout.
Right.
So, choose one small habit that you want to develop and create a plan for how you're going to incorporate it into your daily routine.
So let's say I want to start meditating for 5 minutes each morning.
Okay.
What would be a good way to kind of turn that into a habit?
One effective technique is called habit stacking.
Okay.
And this is where you basically link your new habit to an existing one. So, for example, you could decide to meditate for 5 minutes right after you brush your teeth each morning.
Okay.
By attaching it to something you already do consistently, you create a trigger that makes it easier to remember and follow through.
That's a great idea. It makes it feel less like an extra chore and more like a natural part of my routine.
Exactly.
So any other tips for making habits stick?
Well, consistency is key.
Okay.
It appears that, motivation naturally ebbs and flows.
Right.
So there will be days when you just don't feel like doing the thing that you're trying to make a habit.
Yeah.
But it's important to stick with it even when you're not feeling it.
I could definitely relate to that. There are days when even the thought of getting out of bed feels like a monumental effort,
Right.
let alone tackling a new habit.
Right.
But are you saying we should just power through those feelings of resistance?
Well, it's not necessarily about ignoring your feelings, but rather about recognizing that they don't have to dictate your actions. So even if you're not feeling, 100% motivated, try to do something, even if it's just a small step in the right direction.
So even if I don't feel like meditating for a full 5 minutes,
Right.
I can at least sit down and focus on my breath for a minute or two.
Exactly. The important thing is to just, keep the chain going,
Yeah,
even if some days the links are a little weaker than others.
I like that. And don't underestimate the power of positive reinforcement as well.
Oh, absolutely.
When you do manage to stick to your new habit, even on a tough day, acknowledge and celebrate that win.
Right.
It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just something that kind of reinforces the behavior and makes you feel good about your progress.
Exactly. We tend to be so hard on ourselves when we slip up, but we often forget to give ourselves credit for all the times we do succeed.
That's such a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we reward ourselves in a way that's both motivating and healthy?
Well, it really depends on what motivates you. For some people, it might be something tangible, like, buying themselves a small treat or listening to their favorite podcast.
Right.
For others, it might be something more experiential, like spending time in nature or catching up with a friend. The key is to choose rewards that are aligned with your values and that support your overall well-being.
I love how you emphasize the importance of aligning rewards with your values.
Yeah,
It's not about indulging in something that ultimately undermines your goals, but rather about choosing rewards that support your overall well-being and make the journey towards discipline more enjoyable.
exactly.
This is all so incredibly insightful. I'm already feeling more empowered to tackle my own discipline challenges.
That's great to hear. Something that I found to be really helpful is, finding an accountability partner or a supportive community.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Just to have someone to share your goals with, check in with regularly, to offer encouragement when you're struggling. It can make such a difference.
It really can. It appears that humans are social creatures by nature,
Yeah.
and we thrive in environments where we feel connected and supported.
Hmm.
And, having someone to share that journey with, someone who understands what you're going through, can be incredibly motivating.
And it doesn't even have to be someone who's working towards the same goals.
Right.
It could be a friend, a family member, a mentor, or even an online community. The key is just to find someone who is supportive, encouraging, and non-judgmental.
Absolutely. It's all about finding those people who will lift you up, who believe in your potential, and who will help you stay accountable without, making you feel ashamed if you stumble along the way.
Because let's face it, we all stumble from time to time.
Oh, absolutely.
No one is perfect,
Yeah.
and setbacks are an inevitable part of, any journey, especially when it comes to developing discipline.
It appears that there will be times when you fall short of your expectations,
Yeah.
when you give in to temptation, when life throws you a curveball that, disrupts your carefully crafted plans.
Right.
And it's important to remember that those setbacks are not failures. They're opportunities for learning and growth.
I love that reframing. It takes the pressure off of having to be perfect all the time. And it allows us to kind of embrace the messy, imperfect nature of personal growth.
Exactly. And instead of viewing those setbacks as, evidence of our inadequacy,
Right.
we can use them as valuable data points,
Mm.
that can help us refine our approach, identify our triggers, and become more resilient over time.
So it's about developing that growth mindset,
Yes.
where we see challenges as opportunities for learning and improvement rather than reasons to give up or beat ourselves up.
Precisely. And speaking of being kind to ourselves,
Yes.
one of the most important things that we can do when we experience a setback is to practice self-compassion.
Oh, that is so important.
Yeah.
We often have this inner critic.
Right.
That can be so harsh and unforgiving, especially when we feel like we've made a mistake.
It appears that we're much harder on ourselves than we would ever be on a friend or a loved one
Oh, absolutely.
who was going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Imagine if a friend came to you and they were feeling really discouraged after a setback.
Yeah.
You would offer them kindness, understanding, and support.
Of course. You would remind them of their strengths, their resilience, and their ability to learn and grow from the experience.
Exactly. So why not extend that same grace and compassion to ourselves?
Hmm.
The next time you find yourself struggling with discipline or beating yourself up over a setback, try to talk to yourself the way you would talk to a dear friend.
Yeah.
Offer yourself words of kindness, encouragement, and understanding. Remember, you're doing the best you can with the resources you have available to you in this moment.
That's such a powerful reminder. We often forget that we deserve that same level of kindness and understanding that we so readily extend to others. So are there any specific practices or tools that can help us cultivate greater self-compassion?
There are many. One simple but effective technique is to practice mindfulness meditation.
Mhm.
Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment. And it can
Mhm.
really help us become more aware of our thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
So instead of getting caught up in that spiral of negative self-talk,
Right.
mindfulness can help us observe those thoughts with a sense of detachment
Exactly.
and choose to respond to them in a more skillful and compassionate way.
Exactly. And, there are many other practices that can help cultivate self-compassion, such as journaling gratitude exercises and, acts of kindness towards yourself and others. It's all about finding what resonates with you and incorporating it into your daily life.
I love how you're highlighting this interconnectedness of all these different aspects of personal growth.
Right.
Discipline, self-compassion, mindfulness. They all kind of feed into and support each other. It's like a holistic approach to becoming the best version of ourselves.
I completely agree. And it's important to remember that, this is a lifelong journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will always be new challenges to face new skills, to develop new opportunities for growth. But, by embracing the process with curiosity, patience, and self-compassion, we can continue to learn, evolve, and make meaningful progress towards living more fulfilling and authentic lives.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about discipline is that it can actually lead to greater freedom,
That's a great point.
which seems kind of counterintuitive, right?
It does.
Because we often associate discipline with, restrictions and limitations.
Yeah.
But you're suggesting that it can actually expand our horizons.
It appears that when we develop the ability to regulate our impulses and delay gratification, we open up a world of possibilities that were previously unavailable to us.
So it's not about denying ourselves pleasure or living a life of deprivation.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices
Yeah.
that align with our values and long-term goals.
Exactly. Think about it this way. If you're constantly giving in to your impulses, you're essentially a slave to your desires. You're reacting to your environment instead of consciously shaping it.
Yeah, it's like we're being tossed about by the waves of our desires.
Right.
Instead of being the captain of our own ship, steering ourselves toward our chosen destination.
Exactly. But when we cultivate discipline, we develop the ability to resist those impulses and make choices that are aligned with our long-term goals. We become more proactive and intentional in our actions, which gives us a greater sense of agency and control over our lives.
And that sense of agency can be so empowering.
Absolutely.
It's the difference between, feeling like you're at the mercy of your circumstances and feeling like you have the power to create the life you want.
It really is. And another often overlooked benefit of discipline is that it can actually reduce stress and anxiety.
Really, I would thought that, being more disciplined would add more pressure and stress to our lives.
It appears that when we're constantly giving in to our impulses, we're often left feeling, overwhelmed, guilty, and out of control.
That makes sense because, our actions aren't aligned with our values.
Right.
And it creates that kind of inner conflict.
Exactly. But when we cultivate discipline, we create a sense of order and structure in our lives. We know what's important to us, and we're making conscious choices to support those priorities.
And that alignment can bring a sense of peace and calm
It can.
because we're no longer fighting against ourselves.
Right.
We're moving in a direction that feels right and true.
Precisely. And, when we're living in alignment with our values, we're less likely to experience that nagging sense of guilt or regret
Right.
that can come from making choices that we know aren't in our best interest.
This is such a great reframing of discipline. It's
Yeah.
not about deprivation or punishment.
Right.
It's about empowering ourselves
Yeah.
to create a life that feels good on the inside and out. A life that is both meaningful and joyful.
I couldn't agree more. And it's important to remember that, discipline is not a one-size-fits-all proposition.
Okay.
What works for one person may not work for another. So it's essential to experiment and find what resonates with you.
Yeah.
What feels sustainable, what helps you move closer to your goals without feeling overly restrictive or burdensome.
That's a great reminder because we all have different personalities, preferences, and lifestyles.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense that, we would need to tailor our approach to discipline accordingly.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to figure out what works for you is to simply pay attention to how you feel. When you're engaging in a particular activity, notice how it affects your energy levels, your mood, your overall sense of well-being.
It's like tuning into our inner compass
It is.
and letting it guide us towards the practices and habits that truly nourishes us, energize us,
Yeah.
and help us thrive.
Absolutely. And, it's important to be patient and kind to yourself along the way. It appears that cultivating discipline is a process,
Yeah.
not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when you slip up, when you feel discouraged, when you simply don't feel like doing the things that you know are good for you.
Oh, absolutely. We're all human,
Right.
and we all have those moments of weakness.
Yeah.
The key is to, not let those moments define us.
Exactly.
And not to get caught up in self-judgment or criticism,
Mhm.
but to simply acknowledge them, learn from them, and recommit to our goals
Right.
with renewed intention and self-compassion.
Exactly. It's all about embracing the journey with all of its ups and downs and trusting that with consistent effort, patience, and self-kindness, we can continue to grow and evolve into the best versions of ourselves.
Wow, this has been such a great conversation and so insightful. I mean, you've really helped me kind of shift my perspective on discipline. It's not so much about restriction, but more about empowerment.
But it also makes me think about,
those big audacious dreams that so many of us have.
Yeah.
Those goals that feel a bit intimidating. And I'm wondering what role discipline plays in actually achieving those kinds of dreams.
That's a great question, and it appears that when it comes to, pursuing those big ambitious dreams that require, sustained effort and dedication over a long period of time, discipline becomes absolutely essential.
It makes sense when you think about it because, those kinds of dreams often involve, stepping outside of our comfort zones, facing uncertainty and persevering through challenges and setbacks.
Right.
All things that, require a certain level of resilience and commitment.
Exactly. And, without discipline, it's all too easy to get sidetracked by those inevitable obstacles, to, become discouraged by slow progress, or to simply feel overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the task at hand.
So in a way, discipline acts as a sort of guiding force, that inner compass that helps us stay focused on the bigger picture.
Even when we're navigating those day-to-day challenges and setbacks.
Exactly. Discipline helps us maintain that sense of direction, that unwavering commitment to our vision, even when we're feeling, tired, doubtful, or tempted to give up.
It's almost like discipline provides the fuel that keeps us moving forward.
Yeah.
Even when the road gets bumpy or we can't see the finish line just yet.
Right.
It's that inner strength that allows us to, keep taking those steps, trusting that they will eventually lead us to our destination.
Absolutely. And one of the key ways that discipline supports us in achieving those big dreams is by helping us break them down into smaller, more manageable steps. It appears that when we're faced with a large, complex goal, it can feel so daunting and paralyzing
Oh, yeah.
that it leads to, procrastination and inaction.
Oh, I can totally relate to that. It's like you get stuck in that analysis paralysis mode,
Right.
where you're so overwhelmed by the thought of everything that needs to be done that you end up doing nothing at all.
Exactly. But discipline helps us overcome that inertia by encouraging us to focus on taking those first small steps.
Okay.
Those initial actions that create momentum and a sense of progress, which makes the larger goal feel much less intimidating.
So instead of staring at the mountain, we're focusing on putting one foot in front of the other,
Right.
trusting that each step, no matter how small, is bringing us closer to the summit.
Exactly. And as we continue to take those steps, as we experience those small wins along the way, our confidence grows and the goal starts to feel more and more attainable.
Yeah, it's like that sense of accomplishment we get from, checking things off a to-do list.
Right.
Each small victory kind of fuels our motivation and reinforces our belief in our ability to achieve those big, audacious dreams.
Exactly. And speaking of belief, one of the biggest obstacles that people often face when pursuing their dreams is self-doubt, that nagging inner voice that whispers, you can't do this or you're not good enough.
Ugh, yeah. Self-doubt can be so crippling.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how discipline can help us combat those negative thoughts and cultivate a more positive and resilient mindset.
That's a great question. It appears that discipline can play a significant role in strengthening our mental resilience and helping us overcome self-doubt. And one way it does this is by shifting our focus from, dwelling on our perceived limitations to embracing our possibilities.
So instead of getting stuck in those, negative thought patterns that tell us we're not capable or worthy,
Right.
discipline encourages us to focus on our strengths, our potential,
Exactly.
and the actions we can take to move closer to our goals.
Precisely. And as we continue to take action and make progress, we start to build a track record of success, which further reinforces our belief in ourselves and our ability to achieve our dreams.
It's like creating a positive feedback loop,
It is.
where each small victory strengthens our self-efficacy, our belief in our own competence,
Right.
and empowers us to take on even bigger challenges.
Exactly. And as our self-efficacy grows, so does our resilience, our ability to bounce back from setbacks, to persevere through difficulties, and to maintain that unwavering belief in ourselves, even when faced with obstacles.
This has been such an incredibly enlightening conversation.
Oh, good. I get that.
It's really helped me understand the profound impact that discipline can have, not only on our ability to achieve our goals,
Right.
but also on our overall well-being, our self-perception, and our ability to, navigate the inevitable challenges that life throws our way.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you, and I hope that our conversation has sparked a renewed sense of inspiration and empowerment, encouraging you to embrace the transformative power of discipline in your own life.
Absolutely. And to all of you listening, thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of discipline. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and practical tools that you can apply to your own journey of personal growth and achievement. Remember, discipline is not about perfection. It's about progress. So be kind to yourself, celebrate your wins, and never stop striving to become the best version of yourself.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. It really helps our channel grow and reach more English learners like you. By subscribing, you'll never miss a new episode, and by liking the video, you're letting us know you want more helpful content. Thank you for your support. It means so much to us.